Warning. This program contains strong language, auditory violence, and mental nudity. It is intended only for mature audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to your uncensored home for World of Warcraft news and opinions. With your host, Berserker, this is Unshackled Fury.
Another raid is down, and a flight reckons with the past, while the golden halls of ancient Anaheim beckon to us once more. So welcome back to your uncensored home for World of Warcraft news and opinions, Unshackled Fury. I'm your host, Berserker. This is episode 127, and on today's show, we have the promised BlizzCon news you've all been waiting for. A great new quest line about blue dragons and sins of the past, as well as the end of a raid, trading post grades, and a new video about an old home. But first, welcome to, I think this is a real WoW podcast. I saw a promotional tweet for somebody else the other day that said, if you wanted to listen to a real WoW podcast, that you should listen to their WoW podcast. And who doesn't want to listen to a real one? Listen, you got to get yourself out there. You got to separate yourself in some way, I suppose. So I'll say this is the quasi-real WoW podcast. So if you're looking for a quasi-real WoW podcast, then welcome to Unshackled Fury. As we kick off this episode, I want to do something that I don't do that often, and I think those of you that have been around long enough know that I don't necessarily like to do this, but in light of BlizzCon coming up, there is some value, believe it or not, when you leave reviews and ratings for this podcast. When you hit the star deal on Apple Podcasts or wherever else you listen to this, and you leave a review. I haven't had like an actual review of this show left in a long ass time. So wherever you're listening to this and whatever you're doing, assuming that it's safe, listen, if you could take the 5 seconds it takes to hit the star rating on this deal, I'd appreciate it. Because anything that you can do to help raise the profile of this show leading up to BlizzCon, I'll tell you what that means a little bit later. But it helps out at least some. It can't hurt. Put it that way. So, friends of the show, if you feel so inclined, appreciate you leaving any rankings and reviews that you can in the places where you listen to this, because it does help out the show and raise our visibility. For this week, since we're going to keep this rolling, the metal album of the week this week. Got a great one for you. Metal album of the week this week is Crimson Thunder by the legendary metal band, the power metal band, Hammerfall. This is the 20th anniversary that just passed on this about 7 months ago. So it's from this century, but it is getting a little long in the tooth. Came out October 28th, 2002 was the original release date. They just brought out a remastered 20th edition show, which was or album, which sounds phenomenal. If you don't know, And if you listen to the show by now, you should know the predominant album artwork that is done for Hammerfall is done by none other than Blizzard's own Samwise Didier, who you recognize from like basically Blizzard and its founding, and the guy who created the art style for the whole goddamn thing. So if you've seen a Hammerfall album, there's a good chance you have seen some of his work, and it's always great. And as soon as you look at it, you're like, yep, that looks familiar. It's something else, but that feels like something that I know. On top of that, not only is that the metal album of the week, but 1 week from now, out at the Roseville Goldfield Trading Post, just right outside of Sacramento, I will be taking my son to his first metal show. And joining me, the homie Rommel will be bringing his progeny as well. So the four of us will be enjoying the sultry sounds of Hammerfall in a small venue as they rock it out. And the boys will get their first chance to see, I guess, their dads in their natural environment, which that can, I don't know. I hope it's good. I don't want to scar the poor boy. But seeing your first metal show, it's a big deal. And I'm really excited. I know we're all really excited to see them and to be able to do all of this together. So of course, had to pick a Hammerfall album. I mean, this was a must. Had to happen. So, metal album of the week: Crimson Thunder, Hammerfall. Hit it. Listen to it. Great songs. Hearts on Fire, Crimson Thunder, Lore of the Arcane, leading into Trailblazers, and The Unforgiving Blade. Just a few. Let me tell you, old ladies in grocery store parking lots, they love it when you blast that at full volume rolling by. Personal experience, I can tell you. Hammerfall, Crimson Thunder, hit it. And before we jump into the rage portion of the show this week, I just did want to give a quick shout out. Diablo 4 will be coming out between this episode and the next. There have been some phenomenal lore videos going out on YouTube that Blizzard has put together, and they're pretty lengthy. And up to this point in time of this recording, we have essentially the history of the Diablo franchise up through, I believe, Diablo 2. We haven't started Diablo 3 yet, which is mostly the world that I know. I don't really know too much about Diablo, or I didn't before the D3 timeline, because that's really when, there's big crossovers with Warcraft, and like we got the game, and a year, it was like we got it free for a year of game time. There's a whole great deal there, including Tyrael's Charger, which apparently is out there right now, because in game, right, to celebrate the release, we have a crossover event going on where a greedy emissary, a treasure goblin, is out there running wild, running amok. And I know out at Wowhead they have a schedule, or there's a spreadsheet or something showing you all the places: Stormwind and Iron Plains, Orgrimmar, Azerspan, Thaldraszus, Veldraken, all these places, and when this treasure goblin will be there. I've only hit him one time, and when I did, there were, I don't know how many people. There was probably 100 people standing on top, so there was a slideshow happening when we did it. But it was fun. It was cool. I got a couple of transmog items, I believe. But there's some really cool stuff that you can get. There's a 36 slot bag. That's a big one. There is a little pet, little demon goat pet, and like I mentioned, Tyrael's Charger, which was only available at the time when Diablo 3 came out. That is I think a low chance drop, along with some other weapon transmogs, a backpack transmog. I got the cloak and the helm, or the cloak and the hood transmog. There's a banner toy and another weapon, including the musical toy, the 12-string guitar, which really, that's the jam. That's the jam. So get out there. There's a Google Doc. They'll let you know. But in the meantime, enjoy Diablo 4. It looks fucking awesome, and I have a feeling that folks are really going to enjoy it. So now, got a new rage item this week. Something new to me, something I haven't had to deal with yet before. But for those of us that have spent a little time in Zaralek Cavern, I have a feeling you'll want to join me on this one. So let's go.
Let's rage.
I mentioned in the past that I had gotten into Zaralek Cavern, but there were some things that I hadn't done just yet. I was looking to jump into a few extra things, parts of the story, yada yada, that I hadn't quite gotten to yet. And one of them was the snail races. You recall, if you've been down there, right? Hanging out with the Drogbar. There's some fun Drogbar activities you can join in on. There's some, there's like an advanced weight room situation going on down there. You can lift up some heavy stuff and show off your strumpf for all the Drogbar out there. But the big one, the one that I was most excited about, snail racing. And it took a little while to unlock it because I was looking for it. I had the rep. I wasn't quite sure what was going on. And then finally I got the quest, race to the finish, where I had to help my newly adopted son, the snail Tricky, win a race. And I'm like, yeah, this looks cool. Okay, let's get some treats. All right, I'm going to talk to Corey over here. We're going to get some Tricky treats, and let's start that race. And so I started that race. It's looking good. I'm throwing out these treats. I'm greasing up that track, right? We're going. And then out of nowhere comes this other player. This fucking shaman comes out of nowhere. And he's got a different snail. And he starts throwing out his treats and shit. And I'm like, wait a minute. I have to complete this quest. What are you doing? Get out of here. So I start throwing those treats harder. And I'm like, all right, we gotta try to beat this guy. And I'm way out in front. I'm like, yeah, this guy's never gonna catch me. He just needs to leave. I don't know what he's doing. We get around that first turn. I'm like, I don't know, 6 snail lengths ahead. We're jamming. I'm chucking those things out, and I'm going. We're like, all right. And then all of a sudden, he gains on me, and he starts getting closer and closer, and he's gaining traction. I'm like, wait a minute. So I'm hitting that button hard. I'm like, we gotta go. Get that thing out there. And here comes this guy, and he gets in front of me. I'm like, what are you doing? I have a quest to complete. What is happening here? And so I'm chucking those streets harder, and I'm like, oh my God, we got to try to get the inside track. I'm like, all right, we get around that third and final turn, right? We're getting into that last bit. And I'm like, let's go. And I get that inside curve, and I cut him off, and I'm like, yes, we're going to run him into the wall. And boom, let's go. Let's hit those streets. We're throwing. And I'm greasing up that track like a pig on shit. And I'm just like, let's go. And I'm throwing more treats, and that guy keeps coming. I'm like, no, I'm never going to complete this quest. I'm going to have to do an hour. And I keep throwing it. And then we win. And oh, I was so happy. I jumped out of my chair, and I was like, that's right. That's what you get. Trying to beat me. Unnamed shaman guy. Terrible. So listen, when you see people are down there trying to complete their quests, get the fuck out of the way. I know you've got a daily. I don't care about that. I want to get my daily done. I got a mount to get. Jeez Louise. You know, you go down there for a nice, relaxing snail race, and you're just like, yeah, I'm going to throw out some treats and we'll be good. And then here comes so-and-so right up behind you and just spoils the whole thing. So listen, let people complete their quest, man. You can wait afterward. Get in line. Me and my son, Tricky, we got shit to do. Lessons be learned, folks. Lessons be learned. All right. Now we got that out of the way, we have fantastic news that came our way, and finally get to talk about it. So let's jump into our news. So finally, long last, the news we've been waiting for all this time. BlizzCon 2023. We knew it was coming. We knew it was going to happen. We just didn't know exactly when and what it was going to look like and all of that. Finally, we got the news. November 3rd through the 4th at the Anaheim Convention Center 2023 BlizzCon will return. Now, we had heard that there was going to be some sort of reimagining for BlizzCon, that they were going to do something different, or I don't know. Somehow it was going to be changed. But at the time, it wasn't really clear. And even now, it's not exactly clear. It's not exactly clear because it was really light. The announcement was really light on specifics. How do we get our tickets? Don't know. What's it going to cost? Probably a lot. Are they going to do a lottery system? Is it going to be just mash and refresh on a browser and hoping to God that you make the cut? I mean, it could be anything at this point. My guess is they're still trying to, kind of nail down some more specifics, but they had to get it out. We've been looking at the calendar, the convention center calendar, and you could see like there was a 2-week block of time in November and October that was wide open. I mean, it just screams BlizzCon. And I love that they work together to make sure that BlizzCon is not on the calendar, even though there's totally a block of time there. Try to get hotels ahead of time. Not going to happen. I am Team Hilton 100%. They can put whatever shitty DJ they want in there to try to chase us out. I don't know if maybe they won't do that again. I mean, it was great the first time I went. So 2014, I went first time, met so many folks and had an amazing time. That was the, standing on top of the table, yelling for the Alliance. I mean, maybe that's part of the reason why they had put a DJ in there to try to stop people from doing shit like that. I mean, it's possible. But then we went back and there was a DJ and the vibe was different and it wasn't as good. But you cannot beat the location, and the place it's a pretty nice place. It's pretty rad. It is literally right outside. It's like the convention center and there's the hotel. So you don't need a car. You don't need anything. It's right there. It's very accessible. It's fantastic. So along with the announcement that BlizzCon is happening November 3rd and 4th, in the announcement, they do note that there are hotel blocks that became available. I know, for instance, people stay at the Marriott, I think it is. That's like right across the way from where the Hilton is. It seems to be the competing teams there for a while, Team Hilton, Team Marriott. I just want to say, if you plan to go, the venue is huge. Like, I cannot really overstate how large this venue is. I've never been inside a convention center that was this big. Not only is it like the floor itself, which if you have all of the halls of the convention center, which I assume that they will, it's enormous. And then there are levels above and below. There, I think, are ancillary buildings that they've built even since I was there last. It's enormous. And so if you go and you look at old posts, right, they have maps laid out and you can kind of get a sense of what that looks like. So I say all of that to say is that if you plan to go, make sure that your walking shoes are broken in before you go, because you're going to be doing a lot of walking if that's how you get around. Like, there's just no way about it. 10 miles a day, not out of the question. I mean, it's just, and it's not hard, right? You're not like running everywhere. It's just, it's these are big spaces. They're spread apart. You're like, hey, we're going to walk from the hotel to the place. It's not like terribly far, but it is a walk. You're going to walk from one part of the hall to another part of the hall. Like, it's a pretty big walk to get all the way down one hall. And then front of the building to the back of the building. It's big. So you're going to get your steps in if you go. But make sure, I saw this thing on Twitter. They were like, what's your advice? Bring comfortable shoes and make sure they're broken in. Because otherwise, after even the day before, or especially the first day, you're going to be hating life that second day. It's going to suck. If you go hard, like Rommel and I the first night, and, bang out a novelty-sized bottle of Grey Goose and scream at the top of your lungs, yeah. That next day, you're also going to be hurting, but in a different way. That I don't recommend either. So come prepared. Be prepared. Stay hydrated. Comfortable walking shoes. As far as accommodations, if you've never been there, I assume they're going to continue to do the food trucks, which were fantastic, and the fabled Viking truck. The Viking truck. That's the one you want. That's the one that if you're hungry, you're looking for food, and you know you're ready to go, that's the spot. They have a great menu. I pulled it up recently, and we're looking at it. You know, they had all the classics. In terms of their bratwurst offerings, the Odin, the Loki, the Thunder. You had a Viking bowl, a Nemesis corn dog, the Odin's sides, at Odin's sides. Death by garlic fries, dragon eggs, chili fries. I remember that being really good. Rub fries, coleslaw, chili, you know, all the usual. And then they have, which I love the most, berserker buns. Berserker buns. And I'll just let your imagination run wild with that. But that's my big one. I hope that they come back. I mean, it's the perfect venue. But if you've never had the pleasure of frequenting the Viking truck, best food truck ever. So here we have the event, and I've just pimped out this Viking truck. But why go? Right? Why go to this thing in the first place? There's a lot of hype. Right? There's a lot of hype when this comes out. Sometimes I feel like the content creator, influencer community falls all over themselves to try to be the most excited about BlizzCon. Like, oh, I'm so excited. Oh, I'm gonna do this, and oh, I'm gonna do that, and oh, I'm gonna see my family, and oh, like there's a lot. There's a lot, and I believe that a lot of it is also genuine. I mean, there is no experience like this, and it is one of the biggest reasons that I give why people should go. There is no experience that I know of that can compare to this, and I don't need to make a big show or fall all over myself to demonstrate that. You can see it when you look at any of the videos, any of the pieces that are put out. People are just having a good fucking time. You are immersed in something that you do not have the opportunity to immerse yourself like that in any other way. Like, you know, we play, you know, for anybody listening to this, right? We play World of Warcraft. That's our jam. That's what we do. How often are you playing in a room with other people? Right? And how often, when you do, are you playing with more than, I don't know, a few? A couple? We're talking, I don't know, 10,000 people? And granted, it's across the Blizzard franchises, right? It's not just Warcraft. It's Warcraft. It's Overwatch. It's StarCraft. It's Hearthstone, right? It's all the franchises. Diablo's going to be freaking huge, right? It's everybody's fandom colliding at one time. But it is, quite honestly, one of the greatest experiences I think you can have in a lifetime. You know, I'm 40 years old now, and I'm telling you, in all my years of being alive up to this point, I rank 2014 was the best. 2016 was not as good. 2014 was one of the best times I've ever had in my entire life, even still. And to be around that many people sharing that experience, it's phenomenal. So there's the crowd aspect of it, right? There's the community, true community aspect of it. And I think that word gets thrown around a little too much sometimes, and I think it's used, I don't know, oddly at certain points, but this is it. BlizzCon is legit. It is legit community. And as, I don't know, corny as I do think it sounds sometimes, it does feel like a big family. It is something, because you're going to see people that you've only known from a distance, or, you know, you've seen somewhere, or you heard somewhere, whatever it is, and then there is a real live human connected to that experience right there. And you can go up to them, and, you know, it's I see a thing now, it's like, you know, ask people to hug or whatever. Listen, I don't give a fuck. You can hug me, you can shake my hand, you can do whatever. I don't give a shit. So I'll just tell you there that I don't really have a boundary in that way. It's fine. I've survived COVID and worse. Like, I don't care at this point. It's fine. But for other people, please be respectful. nonetheless, there will be a lot of folks there, and you'll get to see them, and you'll get to interact with them. And it's Blizzard folks, it's community folks. It's fantastic. On top of that, you also know that there will be a big announcement or two, right? Warcraft expansion. I definitely believe that the schedule that Warcraft has been on in Dragonflight, a lot of that is tied to a November BlizzCon where they can drop the bomb on us and be like, all right, it's, whatever Void Light themed thing or pirate themed thing or South Seas themed thing or freaking another planet themed whatever. Like, that's definitely coming. There will likely be at least one or two more. This is the first in-person BlizzCon that they've had. I feel like they have to save some big stuff for this. Maybe this is when they announce this unannounced survival game and like actually give a name and flesh it out and give context. Samwise Didier, who I mentioned earlier, is supposed to be a big part of fleshing that out, and I'm sure he's dying to talk about what he's working on and what that whole team is working on, right? Maybe we get to hear something about that. StarCraft. Oh, man. StarCraft. Oh, the great lament. Such a wonderful franchise. Now would be a great time to revive that, but who knows? So BlizzCon 2023, it's happening. We're going to get more information, it sounds like, in June. Obviously, I'm going to talk about it here. But it is a singular experience unlike any other. And coming out of COVID, listen, we learned a lot about ourselves, about each other during the COVID era, right? These last 3 years, I think for some of us, listen, I'm mindful. I think COVID, it's still out there. Do I mask anymore? I don't. Have I been okay? I have. I've been to baseball games in San Francisco. I've been to many grocery stores, made multiple stops in a day at different places. Stuff I haven't done in a very long time, right? Been doing that again more recently, and it's been okay. Going to a convention of this size, you are definitely taking risks. And that's always been true, right? It's always been true. Con crud. You hear people talking about con crud. Well, now you know. It's just because when you have that many people breathing on each other and one of them's fucking sick and coming from God knows where, then yeah, they're going to spread it to everyone else. And then they leave and they spread it out to God knows where, wherever they go across the country and the whole wide world. You're going to take that risk, right? For me, it's always been worth it. The experience is unlike any other. And coming out of COVID, to me, experiences are now more important than ever. Being able to do something, see something, experience something. That, to me, it's it's more important than being rich, right? Or being wealthy, or being anything, right? I mean, being a good person, being a good dad and a husband, that's awesome. But, as far as like things to attain in one's life, right? Experiences. Because there's only going to be so many opportunities to do stuff. When the time is right, you got to jump. And if you're willing to take the risk, BlizzCon is one of those times. And I highly encourage anyone that can afford it and feels safe enough. I've seen some other conversation about, safety in America. We do have a gun problem here. There's gun violence. What's that going to look like? I never felt unsafe at BlizzCon, and I know that this is like mildly inappropriate, but I feel like given the crowd, if anybody tried to do anything, there would be enough of us out there that would just, beat the piss out of that person and take care of it before it got too crazy. But that's also not realistic. So, I would say that I have always felt very safe there. I think that they have ramped up security quite a bit in recent years. So as far as like personal safety in that way, I wouldn't worry about it. But again, everyone has to assess their own risk tolerances. So be that as it may, BlizzCon is on its way. I'm going to do everything I can to be there. The bonus roll crew, there's several of us that are planning on heading down there. Who gets media passes and who's got to buy just a regular old ticket. Like all of that stuff is TBD. Why I mentioned earlier, you know, raising the profile and the visibility of this show, it gives me and others more of an argument to be like, hey, Berserker should be able to talk to somebody. You know, will that happen? I don't know. And to be honest with you, I'm okay either way. Me personally, I would love to talk to Ian or Taryn or Morgan or fuck all, whoever. I'd love to talk to anybody out there that's willing to talk to me. Christy Golden, Steve Denuser, right? I would love to talk to all these people. If I can't, then I'm just going to enjoy the hell out of that place anyway, and it'll be all right for me personally. I will try to do something for this show because that's what we do. But you never know. So at this point, don't know. But I'm going to do my damnedest to at least be down there. And listen, if you see me, give me a hug, give me a handshake, give me a fist bump. Tell me to fuck off. I'll be fine. Either way. BlizzCon 2023 coming our way. Now, more immediate. We had this past week, I think, one of the greatest quest lines that we have ever had in World of Warcraft. And we've had some doozies. We've had some really good ones. Ones that take us on a tour around Azeroth that touch on various pieces of history and interesting characters and lore. But this one that came out this week, courtesy of the Blue Dragonflight. And we had to talk to Kalecgos, and through a series of events, we ended up in a place called the Veiled Ossuary. And we talked to Senegos, who used to be the keeper of this place. The Veiled Ossuary, the way that they explain it is that it's a way for the Blue Dragonflight, or it was, for them to bury their dead. And they have these like headstones essentially with names and like cause of death like etched into them. And what they're able to do is they're able to sort of put these what do they call them, like essences into these vessels essentially. And it was really cool because we got to go into this place. We had to clean it up, you know, baddies had taken over it, whatever. And it was one of these sort of reclaim the graveyard roles, and I've seen a lot of this on social media where people will go out and, you know, clean old gravestones and clean places up. You know, today as I record this Memorial Day here in the United States, where we honor our fallen dead, our military personnel who gave everything in defense of this country and elsewhere. And one of the things that you see is people going and cleaning these headstones and giving them respect and respecting the people who are buried in these places. And so that's kind of the start of this quest, is doing that sort of thing. And so you are etching some additional names and you are cleaning these things up. And you see, you know, names of blue dragons that we knew and some of them that we killed, like Nightbane, who was Arcanagos, right? You know, some of those we've seen in their cause of death. But the two important ones here were Malygos and Sindragosa, where after we've done everything, right, we want to put their remnants of their spirits to death. Malygos, you remember from the Nexus way back in Wrath of the Lich King, along with Sindragosa, right? Big blue dragon that was hurled out by Galakrond, I believe, and died and crashed out there in Northrend, was resurrected as the big blue skeletal dragon we saw by Arthas the Lich King in the intro to Wrath of the Lich King, and then eventually in Icecrown Citadel, right? We're putting those two spirits to rest, but they're not ready for that yet. And we see these lingering memories. How accurate they are, it's kind of interesting, because one of them was about Neltharion, right, the betrayer, right, and what he did using the dragon soul to the demon soul to, you know, defeat or at least to destroy the many flights during the War of the Ancients, to use that power against them, their own power against them. There was Alexstrasza, this vision of Alexstrasza, where she was mocking our friend Malygos. And then we have the Lich King himself and a couple of abominations with him. And so, we have to go and we have to deal. We talk to them and we give them one swipe, and we're starting to cleanse these memories, right? Taking care of these memories, but it's not enough. It's not enough, because as we're going through, and as Senegos is leading us through, and Kalecgos is leading us through, right, this whole situation, we're coming to find out that there's so much pain, right? There's so much hurt, there's so much loss, and because they died so violently, and especially in Sindragosa's case, right, brought back in such a violent way, and then killed again, right? These are two very tortured souls, and there are just old wounds that just have not healed, right? And so we need more power, right? We need more power to help dispel these images as we fight these memories. They're too overwhelming, and we can't clear out the Veiled Ossuary, this place where all of these dragons are laid to rest. And so we're sent out on some quests. We're sent on a trip around Azeroth. You had to go to Crystal Song, Winterspring, Theramore, Jade Forest, and Booty Bay to recruit 5 more dragons, that blue dragons who had not answered the call to come back to the Dragon Isles to help. And you didn't have to pick an order, but here's the order I went in. I went to Crystal Song first because, you know what? That's my jam. Wrath of the Lich King. I get to go back to Northrend. I'm doing that every time. So I went back to Crystal Song and helped Lanagosa. Took care of some tormented souls there. Boom. We got it. And where did I go? Well, I wasn't all excited about Booty Bay. We're just going to bang that out, get that done. So I had to talk to Zeros, and he was dealing with some goblins. Had to go beat up a dude on a ship. It was all right. Took care of that. I was like, all right, well, let's head out to Theramore, because I know it's going to be super sad. But we got to get it done. I talked to Suragosa out there, and there was a group of mages going wild. They were trying to recreate the mana bomb that blew up Theramore. I'm like, well, we can't have that. I see why you're busy, so help deal with that. Took care of those folks. Suragosa, ready to go. So I left kind of the ones I wanted for the last. Winterspring. Winterspring is just a cool place that's so underutilized, I feel like, in World of Warcraft. We talked to Hala, is the matron protectorate and the last living consort of Malygos, right? Very close. Malygos. And so she was around since the classic days, and we had to help her do some research, find some cursed artifacts, those sorts of things. We got her to come. And then last but not least, Jade Forest. And I know that this was not intentional, right? There was no order that you had to go in, but I felt like the Jade Forest part of this should have been last, and I'm glad that I saved it for the last, because here is where things really got personal, surprisingly, for Kalecgos and Kiragosa. And Kiragosa, who is out in the Jade Forest, has essentially settled out there, has a home, lives in this village, and we help her clean her house. It's just kind of interesting. You think about all the things that we've done. We've killed Deathwing, right? Relevant to this, right? We've killed Deathwing. We've, assaulted citadels. We've fought gods. Cleaning a house of somebody we don't really know. The highs and lows of the Warcraft adventurer. And we also, help deliver some stuff at a village and feed some fish and some real low-key stuff. But there is a series of interactions here between Kiragosa and Kalecgos that was kind of heartbreaking in a way, because Kalecgos, as I recall, right, he was with Jaina for a while, and then they broke that off, and he's just kind of been out there. And it is clear that there is a connection between these two, between Kiragosa and Kalagos, and he pleads with her to try to get her to come help. But you can see that she has done something that most of these dragons and frankly many entities in Warcraft have not. She's found peace. She doesn't want to give that up. She doesn't have to. She talks about being able to have agency in her own life and what she does. And so ultimately, she does not join us. She stays there in the Jade Forest. And I can't say I blame her. Listen, if you listen to the Halfhill report, even one time, you'll know. Pandaria, not a bad place to live. And so we recruit at least most of those folks. And we end up back to where we started. And after talking to Kalagos, the memories of Sindragosa and Malygos are really ramping up. They're blowing up the ossuary. We have all of the dragons there combined, and they're able to cleanse these memories with us. And we go in. We have these essence soul remnants of Malygos and Sindragosa. They materialize. We have to fight to sort of, I don't know, end this whole thing and give them clarity. And ultimately, we have a really beautiful scene between Malygos and Sindragosa where they are able to move on. They are at peace. We see a version of Malygos that we haven't seen. Right, Sindragosa's simulacrum. Right, she picks off. Her work is done, and we're going to contain them within the Azure Vault going forward. And so we see this beautiful scenario with Sindragosa and Malygos talking to each other, and it's hard. You have to watch it. I mean, it's such a beautiful piece. You can see the love and the care that went into just this portion, talking about love and grief and loss, and how when you bury yourself in that, it's impossible to come out, and the hurt that can come along with it. It's unstoppable, and you need love and friends to help bring you out of it. So a beautiful quest line there, but it wasn't done. Right? We'd focused on Sindragosa, we'd focused on Malygos, but if you'd been paying attention, there was one other piece that you knew was going to happen. Senegos, who'd been with us this entire time, the Blue Dragon Senegos, helping us clean things up and clear things out, and talking about everything that he'd seen and experienced, tells us it's time for him to go. And that he wanted to give his flight a gift, and it was the peaceful passing, one of their own. And now that Sindragosa and Malygos have been laid to rest, and the Blue Dragonflight was revived, living in the Dragon Isles, that his job was done. And if you do the little extra chat there, and you try to say like, hey, don't go, we can save you. And he tells us, undoubtedly, I'm sure there's a bunch of ways that you could continue on, but that he had made a promise to Stelagosa's mother when she was killed, that he would look after Stelagosa and the others until their flight was renewed, that he'd extended his life, and he'd already done all that stuff. And so he was ready to go. He was ready to accept his rest and his peace. And you see him ascend, and he, disappears into glitter of, arcane energy, and it is a thoughtful, beautiful moment in a video game that spans so many different stories and emotions. It just gives you pause, and I cannot thank the team that put this together enough. And I know, just based on what I see, right, it takes an army to do this. You have your writers and your animators and your artists who create these these characters, and it all came together just so beautifully. So if you haven't played through it yet, take your time. And I had to kind of rush through this a little bit. I did not know how long this was going to take. It took a lot longer than I thought, like, you know, a good couple of hours. And I kind of rushed through it a little bit more because I wanted to get done and take my notes and be ready for the podcast. But don't do that. It is phenomenal. And that's why I love this game. I'll just say it. That's why I love Warcraft. You get the silly, you get the brutal, and you get the beautiful. You know, it's fantastic. And for all of you Dragonwrath Terragos's Rest wielders, so folks who have that legendary staff, there is even a little bit extra for you, you lucky fuckers, where if you go on, there is a special quest line just for you from Kalecgos, and I don't want to spoil it if you haven't done it and you're able to, but you get a phenomenal prize out of this that nobody else gets, and it's pretty great. And it's in keeping with the theme of letting these blue dragons of the past who have been through a lot of shit finally rest. And it is a beautiful tale of loss and determination and acceptance, and I'm so glad that we got to see it. And speaking of dragons, other dragons, or at least some Drakthir, I want to talk about the end of the raid and kind of what that means briefly for our friends in the Black Dragonflight. Now, I will say, I know there is a cinematic tied to a quest about who the new aspect is. I'm not going to talk about that today. I'm going to talk about it on the next episode. But I just want to throw that out there. I touched on the first 3 bosses last time, my impression of the raid. So having now finished, or at least gotten through to the Scale Commander Sarkareth fight, and I know what happens when it ends. I just wanted to touch on those bosses and how that went. So assault on the Zakali, Warlord Cagney, that was the first one that I had not yet touched on. Well, we're essentially playing bouncer. We got to protect the door, got to play guard there. I liked that it was, for us to split up our raid, and we're kind of taking on different things at different times. I really appreciated mixing in the Highland games where you had to pick up a big boulder and try to drop it on a dude's head. That was fantastic. AoE fest like a mother. Solid. Anytime there's just a bunch of AoE going on, as a Fury Warrior, we're like, yes, bring it. So assault on the Zakali, good fight. Not bad. I enjoyed it. Rashok, the Elder. That one felt just like an old school, fun Warcraft raid boss. Not overly complicated. You're bouncing back and forth and doing some things, dodging a lot of shit. The visual effects on this fight, fantastic. The Shadow Flame is one of the best kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, effects or spells, whatever it is. It's kind of beautiful, and I dig it. So Rashok, great fight. And then we move on to Ziskarn, the Vigilant Steward. This guy sucks. I hate this fight. Fucking traps everywhere. It's a small space. You got those dragon heads at one point start glowing and blowing fire all over the floor. I don't like that one. That's sadistic, that one. I can see why, though. This guy was the standard bearer for deciding which experiments lived and died, because that fight that was challenging. That was challenging. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, that one sucks. Was glad to get past that. And then I'll be honest. I know, and I had to check my armory record just to make sure. I know that I fought Magmarax, the 3-headed fire puppy that I was like, oh, he's so cute. I don't even remember this fight. And maybe that says something about my age and like, what's wrong with me? I don't even remember fighting him. I know we did. And there were giant fire puddles on the ground somewhere. I'm pretty sure we had to jump in the fire just to get to this guy, which, by the way, what kind of raid do you have to jump in the fire to get to stuff? That's just savage. That's just savage. But Magmarox, yeah, Don't even remember. I can't even rate it. But then we get the Echo of Neltharion. We find out Daddy lied. Daddy lied to us. That's just not cool. That's a good fight. I'd even say that's a great fight. Constantly moving. You're kind of in these close quarters combat. Those walls come up and pin you in. You know, you have to really be strategic about which walls you break. He throws up his sword, kind of like Arthas did, and he's got that big AoE effect around him, and you got to get the fuck out. And then you have these, you know, void apparitions that show up through portals, and it's just, it's cool to see the guy, and just the various stages of the fights are really fun. It's AoE everywhere we go. At the end, my God, you're just spamming the bejesus out of everything you got. And then, of course, one of the best drops, if not the best drop in the whole raid, the sword itself, Ashkander, Fall of the Brotherhood, which I am proud to say I did get on my first kill on Echo of Neltharion. I was very happy with that. That model's so good. I love that. You know, it doesn't really match with my Stormwind Guard, you know, Varian transmog, but I'm gonna find something to build around that sword because it is fantastic. There's a lot of great looking gear coming out of this raid, but that fight in particular, especially as a melee, lot of fun, a lot of AoE, dig it. And then we get to scale Commander Sarkareth, a good end of raid boss, lots of different effects, constantly moving around. But where's the void coming from? There's all of this void and nobody's talking about where it's coming from. So again, we know intellectually, right? We know, like, oh, this is what drove Neltharion mad and Sarkareth. Yes, I am trying to also, uphold Neltharion's legacy, right? But there's something missing. So that fight, right? It's a good fight. You're moving around. You're going into kind of like different phases, and I don't mean like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Like you're going into a different plane of existence and having to get stuff and then jump out, and it's kind of fun. Keeps things dynamic and interesting. So the fight itself, I think it's a good fight. It's difficult, but it's also not overly long. Not 15 minutes. Thank you, Blizzard. No more of those. Jesus. A 7-minute fight is long enough. So lengthwise, great. You know, difficulty, even our raid, right? We're on normal right now. We'll get it. But it is a nice challenge. What happens afterward, though? It's kind of underwhelming. It seems. There is a short, like 35, 38 second cinematic that plays afterwards where basically it's Sarkareth laying on the ground, dying. Saying, I was only trying to, uphold Neltharion's legacy, and I guess it was all lies and shit. And you see Rathian and Sibelian looking at him going, oh, maybe we don't want this. Maybe this isn't good. Maybe this isn't worth chasing after. And if it only fulfills that specific moment in time to then get to that next big step, which I'm not going to talk about, okay, that's fine. I can live with that. But it was a little underwhelming. It's the end of a raid. I think we've come to expect, some big stuff, but it hasn't happened yet. And maybe it'll come later. But overall, I know that for some of the mythic people, it was too easy and it didn't last long enough and whatever. I am not on that boat. I am perfectly happy with how long the race to World First took. I don't care. I don't need it to take 2-3 weeks. Like, I get that that's what people get hyped up for, and it was over too soon. And listen, some of us need to do other shit with our lives and don't need a raid that goes on forever. So I am happy with the difficulty and the raid length and everything else. I think this is a great raid. I think it's solid mechanics, beautiful visuals, one of the best swords of all time. It's a banger. It's a banger. And you know what? the mythic elitists can go somewhere else. That's fine. I'm sure the Blizzard will swing the pendulum the other way, and then the next raid will be, tough as nails. But for now, Aberrus, good raid. And we'll have to talk about the Black Dragonflight portion of this a little bit later down the road. Switching gears just for a moment here, wanted to have a quick follow-up on the Activision Blizzard Microsoft purchase boondoggle extravaganza marathon here. Last we had discussed this, I believe, with Jez Corden. The UK had rejected it, right? So they were not going to approve this deal. And the US was having some problems. So it was looking pretty bad for the fate of this deal. And then out of nowhere, the EU, European Union, approved the deal. The European Commission, about 2 weeks ago, I think, they gave their approval. And, there was some stipulations in there, again, continuing to say like, hey, Microsoft or Activision must continue to license, Call it. Why is everybody so hung up on Call of Duty? I guess I'm just out of it. Like, Call of Duty apparently is like the fucking white whale for everybody, but that has to continue on. Like, I have to keep, people free to, other platforms can have it, along with other issues related to cloud gaming, because cloud gaming, right, was what sunk it for the UK side. So stipulations, but having this approval does give a little bit of a momentum push to try to get this deal going. And there's still work to be done. I still think it'll get through. I have hope. Maybe I'm being stupid, but I still have hope. And we'll see. It's, this is the largest tech merger in like 20 years. It's big. So it's going to take time. It's complicated. Some lawyers are definitely getting paid out of this. But I still think it's going to go through. And I'm pretty excited for it. We are at the end of May now. So we only have like a couple of days left. But I wanted to give my ratings, my rankings for this month's trading post offering. So this episode is going to come out on Tuesday, May 30th, because it's Memorial Day. No, I'm not putting something out on Memorial Day. I got ribs to smoke. So gonna rank this with a couple days left to go. If nothing else, just because I'm getting it on the books. And I'm gonna try a ranking system that's a little bit different this time. Something that, I think really speaks to the sensibilities of this show. Because I can continue to do 8 out of 10, how many out of 5 or whatever. But I think I found something. We're gonna try it. We're gonna see if this works. So I'm following along here with the official post, and right out of the gate, we have Pippin the pet, and people I know were really excited. It's like a robo mechanic dog.
I mean, it's all right. Like,
yeah, it's all right. It's not my favorite, but I don't necessarily hate it. It's all right. Next up, we got High Priestess's ceremonial drape.
I mean, it's all right. Like,
It's okay. I prefer the longer ones. I need it longer. It's too short. Next up, the Huntman's recurve bow.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
It is not inspiring. Not inspiring at all. I mean, you're going for some pretty basic, like, naked hunter in the woods with that one. Along with the next item, the sharpened shank.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
Yep. Not my favorite. There's a reason why these are only 50 traders tenders. 50. That's right. But next up we have the ensemble, the Vagabonds Snowy Threads.
that's what I
These are the GOAT. I love them, and I transmogged into them right away. I love the snowy threads, the white. It looks so good with so much. The like the kind of the white around the neck with the white cloak. The length. I wish it was a little bit longer, but that is, you can put that with almost anything, and it elevates every look. It's so fantastic. And up next, we've got the sun-bleached Grimskull Cinch and the well-worn Grimskull Cinch.
That's what I'm talking about. That's why he's there, me. That's why he's the GOAT. The GOAT.
These are also great. These are also fantastic. Anytime you put a skull with horns on your belt, you're doing some business. Next up, the Merciless Trapper's Staff.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
Yeah, I don't even know what this is. I don't even know what this is. It's like they made a mistake. I don't know. 150 Trader's Tender is a lot to ask for that because, yeah, I don't know. Next up, Crimson Bicorn.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
That's right, you heard me. The pirate stuff is played out. It's played out. I'm tired of it. No more bicorns. Too many. Next up, Black Iron Thunder Bluss.
That's what I'm talking about. That's why he's there, me. That's why he's the GOAT. The GOAT.
That is a badass blunderbuss. That's how you say it. Blunderbuss. Love it. Lost Crown of the Arcane.
I mean, it's all right. Like,
It's a little weird looking. I'm not really sure what to make of it. Tiercel's Wing.
I mean, it's all right. Like,
It's awkward. I don't know. 200. The fire color is kind of cool. Fang of the Mountain.
that's what I'm talking about. That's why he's there, me. That's why he's the GOAT. The GOAT.
That is a great one-handed sword. I'll never be able to use it, but it's got like a hanging tooth and it's glowing and it's got all this stuff going on. That's fantastic. The Ensemble. Kvaldir Scout Leathers.
I mean, it's all right. Like,
Yeah, it's okay. It's a basic leather set. No problem. Next up, Ensemble. Vestment of the Honored Valajar.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
How can you have something called the Valajar and it's not for plate warriors? I mean, what is that? 850 Trader's Tenders for something called the Honor Valajar, and it's not for plate wearers. I mean, that's criminal. How can you do that to us? 850 Trader's Tenders. My God. Unbelievable. That's a crime. Last but not least, this month's bonus reward, the Savage Green Battle Turtle.
that's what I'm talking about. That's why he's there, me. That's why he's the GOAT. The GOAT.
You're damn right. Anytime you call something a Savage Green Battle Turtle, Savage Battle Turtle, that just sounds fucking cool. So there's your May rewards. Your May trading post items. June will be out soon. I think we've already looked at a couple or something. There'll probably be some good ones in there. But those are my official rankings as determined by whatever I felt like in the moment that I recorded this. But I hope that helps guide your future purchases, and we'll see what we've got in June. So the last item that I have for this episode, it's a personal one. It's a tricky one. And I'm sure there's at least a few people listening that may have fast forwarded to this or just wanted to hear this when it came. And that is about the recently released video from World of Warcraft. They've started a new video series, so they've had a few of these things going on. But this one it's just called Guild. It's called Guild, where they're going to be, I assume, featuring many different guilds of different types across the World of Warcraft player base. And the very first one is one that is the former home for my raid team and a community that I was around and involved in for a number of years, and that is the Convert to Raid Guild. And before I say anything else or make any other comments, I want to say unequivocally that this is a beautiful, loving, thoughtful tribute to the guild Convert to Raid. It is, honestly, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful pieces that Warcraft that Blizzard has ever put together or made. Yeah, I mean, depending on your lens, it could be corny, it could be sappy, it could be whatever. But you can tell that they spent some fucking money on this thing. It is a gorgeous production. And obviously, if you've been around, if you listened, right, you know, right, there is a personal connection to this guild, and specifically to one of the people who was kind of front and center on this whole thing, Summer Walker, who goes by Sal, who is a friend of mine and somebody that I know. I'm not like, oh, I remember that person. Like, we know each other. We're friends. She was the host, or one of the co-hosts of the Converted podcast, which was the podcast about the Convert to Raid Guild, right? Convert to Raid was the well-known podcast that then made a guild, and then there was the Converted, which was the podcast about that guild. And it was the first podcast I was ever on. And I launched this podcast on the Converted. And my former co-host, Nevox, is from the Converted, right? And that's where I started. That's where my guild, the Salad Senate, we started as a raid team in the Convert to Raid Guild. So there was a lot of deep personal connection with that guild, with the people there, with people that are still there. And when Sal first came to me, right, about this, because if you've watched it, if you go to, I don't know, it's like somewhere after 4 minutes, right, when they're talking about the Converted and guests on the show, I'm in it. You see me. You see my face. Me and Nav. You see us on there. When we made an appearance, had to be a few years ago now, but there we were. And yes, I had to sign a release form to allow them to use my likeness on this video. And at the time that happened, I had some questions in the back of my mind, because the exit for my team and the reason for that exit was not great way back in 2020. It was, in our little world, a big deal, and it involved not primarily, but there was a part of this that had to do with a reported sexual assault. And so I was curious, how did Blizzard not know? How did they reconcile that? Because I know they're trying to be as squeaky clean as they can be right now. And there was definite fallout from that event, right? If you think back, right? Nav made a statement about that on the show. We talked in depth about what happened. But it's been 3 years. And so when Sal came to me, I was like, I'm ready. I've been ready. Like, let bygones be bygones, and people move on, and there's different people in charge now, and it's okay. I'll sign the release. It's fine. So I signed it, right? First piece comes out. It's a quick teaser. Like, oh, Sal, look at you. Wow, that's wild. It's crazy. Like, to see a person that right, being featured in such a prominent way, it's wild. And then the piece came out, and One, I didn't expect it to be 10 minutes. I don't know if anybody did, but I watched it. I started watching it, and I was like, man, this is pretty cool, and it's, it's Sal, and it's Bartholomew and Silverbolt from over there, and then they started talking about 2020, and there was not much said other than the comment from Sal about how a lot of it had to do with divisive comments online. Nothing about when the sexual assault was reported to guild leadership and that was handled horribly, and then later that was called out by another member and people were named, and like none of that. Just about divisive comments online. And that did bother me quite a bit. And I was not the only one. Like I said, our team left. That was why. Because at the time, right, we had lost faith in our leadership. That the way that they had handled this inappropriate conduct was in itself inappropriate. That then GM and CTR host, Pat Crane, didn't do the right thing. Who has since gone into some sort of self-imposed exile. I don't know. He's not around, right? CTR just up and disappeared into the wind. And I know that there was comments afterwards online, and I know at least one person was asking me like, hey, you said a thing. I don't know that was said. And believe me, I have the receipts. I still have the receipts. I know what was said, and I know who said it, right? So my history is clear. And so when I see that, it was a problem for me. And so knowing that I would come on this podcast, knowing that I would talk about it, I reached out to Sal. And because Sal is genuinely one of the best people I know. She is a world traveler who's seen a lot of shit, who survived a lot of shit. She's a survivor, let me tell you. And she's just a good person. She really is. Listen, we all make mistakes. We all do. I fuck up all the time, right? But I felt like if I reached out to her, I wanted to let her know ahead of time, like, hey, I'm probably gonna be dropping a turd in the punch bowl here, and I want to give you the heads up. We had a little, exchange, and ended up talking on the phone just yesterday, for a little over 2 hours. And we had a great conversation, and it was, it really was a pleasure to talk to her. And we talked about a lot. We talked about our life, our lives, what we've been up to, stuff about this, how this whole thing came together, things that, we both experienced or went through, and what's going on. It covered so much, and it really was great. But one of the things that came forward is that through the process of getting this video put together and to reaching out to people, and now that the video's out and everything, the whole deal, right? It has surprisingly ripped out and ripped open a lot of old wounds. And I'll admit, I'd kind of forgotten a lot about what happened. And it wasn't until I saw this video and I went back and I looked at a lot of stuff. I listened to my old episodes, right? And it brought a lot back. And so in reconciling that with what the video is showing, right, I had a huge problem with that. And I could feel a lot of old anger rising up, right? But when I reached out to my friend, we had a chat about it. And I heard more about her side and how this came together. And, the whole kit and caboodle, the whole enchilada, the whatever. What she had to say made a lot of sense. And so, in the end, it's a beautiful piece. I do think that it is incomplete in its telling of certain events, but I understand why it is what it is. And I believe my friend, I believe she's being upfront with me, and I want to respect the sanctity of that conversation. But I don't think that anybody was trying to act badly here. I think that people were doing the right thing, or at least what they thought was the right thing. And in this instance, it's very specific. It's very personal to some of us, and that's what makes it hard. But I'm willing to let that go. And it's a good reminder to me, and I want to share this with all of you. That's why I bring it up, is that it is so important to reach out to your friends, especially when there are disagreements, when there are challenges, because you never know what people are going to say. You never know what perspective they might bring. And so much can be addressed or cleared up, or you can get on the mend. You can get on the road to recovery by reaching out and by doing those things. So if you find yourself in that position, if you're listening to this and you find yourself in that position, there's somebody that you haven't talked to, or there's something going on, reach out. Time really is short. The time that we spend here, it is short. And you only get so many opportunities, like I talked about earlier, chances to do stuff, those experiences, right? And experiences are truly best shared. And when you come across these moments when you can strengthen relationships or friendships or clear things up that, maybe getting you riled up or your hackles up or whatever, if you can clear those up by making a phone call, reaching out, do it. Yeah, they might tell you no, they might tell you to fuck off. There might still be too much pain there, but it's worth the attempt. It's worth it to try. Because if COVID and the COVID era has taught me anything, it's that the people around you are more important than ever. But those relationships, that's what really matters. That's what really counts. So I want to leave you with that thought today. And I want to say nothing but love to all the folks out there in CTR land. I'm sure you guys have turned things around, and it is a beautiful piece. So if you haven't had a chance, go ahead and check it out. It's Guild, Convert to Raid. All right. I think I've done enough damage for one episode. My thanks to all of you for listening. And remember, you can always follow me and this show on Twitter at Berserker Rage and Unshackled_Fury, as well as on Twitch at Unshackled Fury and Real Berserker. You can also join our Discord. Links for which are in the profile of the show on Twitter and on our bonus roll page. Feel free to contact the show with your questions, comments, or otherwise through any of those resources or unshackledfury.com. And you can find this show wherever you get your podcasts. So once again, thank you for listening. Remember to keep your swords wet and your banners high. And we'll see you next time. Farewell.